Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So Jeremy Clarkson trying to attack Angela Rayner, but making himself look stupid in doing so. Trump getting booed extra at the tennis after he tried to censor it. And Nigel Farage getting his goons to basically assault a woman who was asking him questions about his taxes. Extremists trying to maintain a veneer of civility. It doesn't take much for the mask to slip though, doesn't it? But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So let's kick off with Jeremy Clarkson. In the wake of her resignation, he had this to say about Angela Rayner within the hour on Twitter. We paid for Angela Rayner's education. We paid her wages when she worked for the local council. We paid her wages when she became an MP. We even paid the settlement that enabled her to buy a house. Taxpayers have funded every aspect of her entire life. Now, this isn't actually true because not all of her work has been for the public sector. However, let us just examine the statement anyway. First of all, what point is he trying to make? He's clearly intending it as an attack on Rayner, motivated by some unknown to me source of hatred. Is it because she's a smart working class woman made good? And he's a privately educated bore who once punched a producer because he didn't like his lunch? Not quite sure why attacking her for being a public sector worker makes sense. Most people appreciate the work public sector workers do. I don't know. But for whatever reason, Clarkson's irrational hatred was turned on Rayner because she spent her life working in the public sector. Unusual to see even extreme right-wing characters so aggressive to public sector workers like this. But then you consider Clarkson himself. Now, I don't know how his statement is supposed to be an attack on Rayner. I'm still trying to work that one out. Let me know in the comments below if you've worked it out. But it applies way more to himself. Although he had a job with his parents' business for a few years when he was young, his career has essentially been on the BBC, where he landed a job in his 20s. So his wealth, and that wealth is considerable, has come from the BBC. Even his private business dealings were seeded with the money he made on television. And the BBC is, of course, funded by you and I, by the licence fee. It's like a sort of television tax. So Jeremy Clarkson has also been funded by the taxpayer, and we've spent way more on him than we ever did on Angela Rayner. He made millions from the BBC alone. Just another vile, odious, privately educated man who feels the need to vent his spleen at a successful woman, without even considering the fact that his baffling attack applies way more to himself. But I've never accused him of being smart, to be fair. He once insisted that it's not possible to defraud someone by having their bank account details, and to prove it, he made his own public. Someone then decided to teach him a lesson and used the details to make a payment from Clarkson's account to charity. You'd have thought he'd learned to engage his brain before his mouth a bit after that. Sadly not. But from one privately educated spiv hating on a successful woman to another just plain assaulting one. At the Reform UK conference, Nigel Farage openly admitted he should not have lied about the tax dodge he got his partner to carry out over the Clacton property that she bought, but he claimed to own. So obviously, Farage owns up to deceiving the public. Of course, you're going to ask politicians about it if you're a journalist, right? So when a female reporter from the Mirror asked Farage if he would resign over the issue, given what he'd had to say about Rayner, who at no point deceived the public about her arrangements, he just responded, "How dare you? I think you're disgusting." So much for freedom of speech. Do you remember when Farage was being grilled by Democrat Jamie Raskin last week? And Farage proudly claimed that he takes more questions from journalists than any other political leader. "I'm so open, I'm the most open person around." Not very open here, was he? Wasn't taking questions here, was he? In fact, not only did he refuse to answer the question, which he had every right to do, not only did he do so rudely, which was totally unnecessary, but his thug then pushed the poor woman so hard that she stumbled backwards and nearly fell on her ass. The shove was so violent that bystanders had to ask if she was all right. So we're not talking about a bodyguard, you know, the usual thing, putting the arm out like a guardrail and moving their employer through the crowd. No. This was a full-on push that nearly had her on the floor. And it's not even like she was in his way. You can see on the footage, article linked to the description below, there was plenty of room for him to just move past her. The bodyguard cannot even be said to be just making room. He was just assaulting someone who was asking Farage a fairly standard question for political journalism. This is not the image which Nigel Farage was trying to project at his Republican witch trial of European hate speech laws last week, was it? In fact, it's a shame that that wasn't scheduled for next week, because I think Mr. Raskin might have had some interesting footage to show people. Remember before last year's election, and I said, everyone challenging the Tories should show that video of Rishi Sunak boasting about taking money from deprived areas and giving it to rich Tory areas. I think we may have a contender for the video which opponents should use heavily at the next election. This is how Farage really treats free speech. This is how he treats people who ask him questions. But it's not just right-wing extremists getting exposed in Britain. Trump was doing it in America. At least he wasn't attacking women this time. More himself, actually. So he wanted to attend the final of the US Open tennis, a popular event. He wants to be associated with popular events, right? Obviously, he knew he was going to receive a hostile reaction because, dumb as he is, he doesn't buy his own bullshit about his popularity, right? So we knew this ahead of it. I'd read it in reports ahead of the match. He'd ordered media outlets not to show scenes of him being booed. Only, of course, if I knew this was going to be happening, so too did the crowd. So they made a point of booing extra loud and every time he popped up on screen. Trump wanted his image to be broadcast doing his best look to look patriotic, right? But the crowd made it impossible for it to be done without the hostile reaction being very vocal. He did get some cheers as well, to be fair, but the boos outnumbered them. You know, he may be able to control his lackeys and toadies, not the public. And every time the crowd saw his image pop up on the screens, they'd loudly boo him again until the image went away. Actually, maybe part of the reason could have been because he ruined their tennis as well. Because of the extra security, it took way longer to get everyone into the stadium. So there were some people still being allowed in when the first set was already done and dusted. Can't imagine that endeared him to the fans very much either. But for people who built their careers on popular adulation and support, these people don't half hate other people. Like all three of them in their own ways spend most of their time, if you think about it, hating on people. It's rather sad, really. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.